The movie begins with a little girl reading a children's storybook, while we are shown a wrecked cabin, and it seems a catastrophe took place here recently. The girl's voiceover tells the story of a mouse, who lived beneath a tree and played in the fields. He was a happy and carefree mouse until one day, a black crow warned him about a mysterious thing called darkness, which lurks even in broad daylight. In the next scene, we see the little girl, Kayla, who's narrating the story, and she's reading a book called Darkness Hides, in a car. Her younger sister, Maddie, scares her with a zombie doll, so their mother, Laura, asks her to behave while she finishes loading stuff in their car. It turns out the family is heading to spend a vacation in a remote cabin. However, the father, Sean, has to stay in the city for a bit longer because of some urgent work. Laura is annoyed by this, but Sean assures her that he'll come as soon as he finishes his work. Following this, Laura and the kids depart from there. After a long drive, they eventually arrive at a forest gate that leads to their cabin. Laura attempts to open the gate's padlock, but she struggles. Moments later, a car arrives, and a man named Owen steps out. He introduces himself as a nearby resident, and helps her in opening the padlock. Owen reveals that not many families live around here. He also mentions that a family lived in their cabin for years, but abruptly left when their son, John, went missing. Owen says that John was a bit slow-witted, and the authorities never found him. The man then asks if it's just them on vacation, but Laura explains that her husband is also coming. After this, Laura heads toward the cabin, and we see the name John carved into one of the woods. The family soon arrives at a beautiful cabin by the lake, situated in the middle of the forest. The kids rush to explore the place, while Laura receives a call from Sean. He says he's going to be a bit late, and we see him secretly buying a music box as a gift for his daughters, and some wine for his wife. Following the call, Laura enters the cabin, and places the zombie doll on a table. Meanwhile, the kids are playing on the swing outside, and we can see how far away the villa is from civilization. All of a sudden, while playing outside, the kids notice a red string in the distance. They curiously begin following it, and soon end up deep in the forest. Shortly after, Laura freshens up, but when she looks outside, she notices that her daughters are missing. This worries her and she heads downstairs to look for them when suddenly, she hears a loud thud outside. But it turns out to be just her daughters. The three rush to the kids' room, and Laura sees Kayla hiding something in the drawer. Mom asks what it is, and Kayla says it's a present for Dad. Later that night, Laura reads the book Darkness Hides to her daughters, but Maddie doesn't seem well and wishes to sleep. Mom then takes the girls upstairs, and tucks both of them into bed. After this, she goes outside to smoke, but the cabin's landline starts to ring. It turns out to be Sean, who says he's been calling her multiple times on the phone, but she didn't pick up. Laura apologizes and explains that she left her phone in the car. He then informs her that he's going to be there in a few more hours and hangs up. Moments later, Laura hears some branches snapping in the distance, and feels like someone is watching her, but she decides to just head back inside the house. After a few hours, Kayla awakens her mother, saying something's wrong with Maddie. This worries Laura and she immediately goes to check on her daughter, who seems to be sick. It appears like something is stuck in her throat. With her mother's help, she soon vomits a small piece of ribbon, with the word hello written on it. The scene then cuts to a flashback where we see the sisters following the red thread, and arriving in the forest. There, they notice that someone has set up a table with food and drinks on top. The girls are thrilled to have a tea party and immediately grab 2 cupcakes to eat. In the present, Laura rushes to see what Kayla had hidden earlier. It turns out to be the cupcake, and the girl reveals that she saved her share of food for her dad. Mom then asks Maddie if she ate one of the cupcakes, and she confirms that she did. The mom begins tearing apart the cupcake, where she finds a strange liquid with a small ribbon with the word goodbye written on it. Realizing that they're in danger, she tries to call the cops through the landline, but it appears to be disconnected. At this moment, they hear thudding sounds from upstairs. The sisters are terrified and ask what's happening, but Laura assures them that everything is fine. She then grabs a kitchen knife, and heads outside to retrieve her phone, despite her daughter's pleas not to leave. Laura makes it to her car, where she searches for the phone she left behind. However, she is shocked to discover that it's gone. Following this, a terrified Laura goes inside and grabs her daughters, saying they must leave the house. They rush to the car, but hears a maniacal laugh, and someone throws a stone at the car window. The three quickly get inside, and Laura proceeds to drive away from there. But unfortunately, the car's wheels suddenly fall off and they end up crashing. Now that they don't have a vehicle, they rush back inside the house and lock the doors. A scared Kayla asks where their dad is, to which Mom responds that he's coming soon. Just then, they hear continuous knocks on the front door. Laura goes to investigate, and this is when she discovers their family photo taped outside the window, with everyone's faces scratched out except hers. Upon seeing this, Laura quickly takes the kids upstairs. Maddie is still vomiting and her condition is getting worse, so Laura decides to take a bold step. She announces that they will go outside to get help for Maddie. At this moment, Maddie looks out the window, and suddenly says that her father is already here. Laura takes a peek, and then sees a man in the dark. The man waves to them before walking away, and she realizes that it's not her husband. In the next scene, Sean arrives at the forest gate, and discovers that it is padlocked, and he can't open it. He suddenly notices a note on the gate, attached to a red thread that states "Follow me." Sean is confused and calls his wife, but then, he hears her phone ringing in the distance. Someone eventually picks it up, but Sean only hears breathing sounds. He suspects she's pulling a prank on him, so he follows the red thread as instructed in the note. Following this, Sean walks for a while, and grows increasingly annoyed. He calls out to his family, saying he's tired and they can prank him tomorrow. Eventually, he tries calling Laura again, but hears his own voice coming from the other end. He then notices a bright light in the distance, and as he follows the light, he finds Laura's phone on a table, surrounded by 4 life-sized wooden mannequins arranged around a tea party. But then, we see a man in a bandaged mask appear behind him with an axe, ready to attack. Meanwhile at home, Maddie's health shows no signs of improvement. Mom advises her daughter to be brave, and reassures her that she'll be fine, and that their father will soon arrive. Suddenly, they hear loud noises throughout the house, so Laura takes the girls downstairs to investigate. Someone then knocks on the door, causing the kids to scream in fear. Moments later, they hear Sean's voice outside, calling out to Laura. She is relieved that her husband has finally arrived, but still grabs a knife, and instructs her children to remain inside. However, when she opens the door, she's shocked to see a recorder hanging from a rope with Sean's voice playing on it. And then all of a sudden, Sean's dead body drops from the roof, with his eyes gouged out. This horrifies poor Laura and she breaks down in tears while holding her husband's lifeless body. The girls notice her crying and rush to investigate, but Mom prevents them from going outside. They still notice the dad's body from a distance and begin to scream, but Laura lies, stating it is all a trick and the body is not their father's. Suddenly, the entire lights in the cabin go out, making their situation even worse. Laura grabs a flashlight and a knife as she prepares to leave the place on foot. The three then finally leave the house, but soon come across mannequins that look like them, a woman hanging by a rope and 2 children on swings. Suddenly, someone begins throwing eggs at them relentlessly, so the trio rushes back to the house and locks the door. Inside, Laura blocks the front door with some furniture to prevent the killer from intruding. Kayla then grabs the book Darkness Hides, and shows the drawings made by the masked man. Laura is shocked to see a picture of the 2 girls playing on swings with herself in the middle. Just then, a massive puppet doll smashes through the window, so Laura immediately takes her children upstairs, and locks them in a room. She lies on the floor and looks through the gap between the doors. The poor mother then bursts into tears, and her daughters cuddle up to her to comfort her. Moments later, Laura recalls that her husband's car must be nearby, and decides to escape with it. She asks her daughters to stay inside the closet, while she goes to retrieve the car keys from her husband's pocket. She hands the daughters a watch, and promises to return within 20 seconds. Following this, she walks outside alone, goes to her husband's body, and retrieves his car keys. Next, she tells the girls that they're going to leave now. But as they make their way downstairs, they hear someone's presence in the house. Laura screams and demands that the intruder get out, claiming that she has a gun. Moments later, she looks out the window and sees Owen approaching their house with a flashlight. Laura bangs on the window to get his attention, but the glass muffles her cries for help. Not willing to give up, she uses her flashlight. This finally grabs Owen's attention, but he doesn't understand what she's saying. And then this happens. The masked killer suddenly approaches him from behind, and ends up murdering Owen with his classic axe. Witnessing the tragic incident, Laura becomes even more desperate to protect her kids. The three rush downstairs, where they discover the zombie doll and the children's book Darkness Hides on the counter. The new drawings have been added, and the storybook has been modified, with handcrafted pages depicting the killer's plan to murder everyone. Following this, Laura unbarricades the front door so they can all leave in Sean's car, right when the killer takes her away, while her daughters scream in fear. The poor girls then hold each other and cry for quite some time. With their mother gone, they realize they need to defend themselves, so Kayla grabs a kitchen knife in case the killer returns. Moments later, they hear a children's song playing outside, and believe it is their father. The girls nervously walk outside, and are relieved to see their father's car. However, there's no one inside. They soon notice the car trunk moving, and when they open it, Laura is tied and gagged inside. And this is when the masked killer appears and attacks Laura in the abdomen. He then chases the girls with the car, forcing them to run back inside the house. They immediately rush upstairs, and hide under a bed to avoid detection. Shortly after, the masked killer enters the room, looking for them. He checks the closet, but doesn't find them there. He then sits on the bed, and tells the kids that it's okay to be scared, and introduces himself as John. He says that he grew up in this house a long time ago, and has been watching their family every year when they come to vacation. He's always been here waiting, but they couldn't see him. Moreover, the psycho admits that the book Darkness Hides originally belonged to him. He left it here intentionally, so they could find it and understand him. John explains that there's a darkness all around them, but the darkness is not a shadow, it's actually him. To their horror, John suddenly flips up the bed, and he quickly knocks them out using chloroform. The scene then shifts to the morning, where we see Sean's eyes and arms set on a wooden mannequin. It appears that the psycho intends to put the family members' body parts on these family mannequins. Laura is shown stuffed in a trunk with an axe sticking out of her side, but she's still alive. John pulls the axe out of her body and walks away from there. He then heads to the mannequin area, where he has staged Laura's family members having a tea party. He takes the unconscious sisters to the forest, and starts measuring their eyes and hands to carve the mannequin wood. During this time, Kayla finally awakens, but pretends to be unconscious because John is nearby. She tries to wake up Maddie as well, but the little girl doesn't budge. Later, John removes one of the wooden mannequin hands, and approaches Kayla. He decides to cut her hand and place it in the mannequin. But just as he's about to do so, he suddenly hears a music box playing in the distance. Confused, John starts following the sound, and soon discovers a teddy bear, wine, and other gifts on the ground. He continues forward until he reaches the empty car trunk, where a music box is playing. The idiot looks at it with interest, but then Laura appears behind him and attacks him with an axe. A deadly fight breaks out, and Laura manages to injure him severely. He also fiercely fights back and ends up hurting her. After an intense struggle, Laura finally prevails, and stabs him with his own axe. Back in the forest, Kayla eventually awakens Maddie, and the girls see their injured mother running toward them. The three hug each other and burst into tears. In the final scene, Laura places her daughters in the car, while John lies on the ground with the axe on his back. The family finally gets a chance to drive away. However, moments later, Kayla turns around, and notices that John's body is no longer on the ground.